Welcome to the Safety in Numbers podcast. I'm your hostess, Sheila Hansen. Welcome to episode 9. Today's topic is extremes, as in extreme ways of thinking. So I've read several social media posts on teacher sites or teacher groups that are really discussing the things that you see here. You should never do this way of teaching, or you should always do this way of teaching, or your classroom must look like this all the time. Black and white thinking, or right and wrong thinking, or extremes thinking is actually easier because you live inside that box of that extreme. I want to free you from that box. There is so much more than either or. There's also both and, which opens up a rainbow of possibilities of ways that you can diversify your classroom and your teaching. So we have all had those days when you are just completely overwhelmed with either the craziness going on inside your classroom or the crazy stuff your administration is forcing you to do and you don't have time to do it during your planning time and plan great lessons, and you don't want to take anything home, or something major happened in your life outside of work and you're just completely overwhelmed. At those times, in the box teaching is awesome, because sometimes you don't have the brain power or the heart power to get up and do all that needs to be done for some of those out-of-the-box sort of lessons. So there is nothing wrong with in-the-box sort of teaching. Following the notes, and then doing the guided practice, and then doing the independent practice, and then doing practice and homework on their own. All of that is good. But if that's all you ever do, it creates a dull and stressful environment in your classroom. And math is already a stressful enough subject because there are some kids out there, there's a lot of kids out there who find math stressful for whatever reason. Either they've had bad experiences in math classes in the past, or they've moved around a bunch and they've lost a lot of skills. They never learned a lot of skills, so they come in feeling inadequate. Or they come from a family that says, oh, we don't do math. So then they think, well, it's just genetic. I'm just bad at math. So this subject is just going to be a complete waste of my effort. All of those sorts of mentalities play into the stress of math class. Not everybody has it, but there's a significant number of people that do. Diversifying the way that you teach can actually relieve a lot of that stress and bring some more excitement and interest into your classroom. My goal for you in this video is that you will see the difference, see the goods and bads, the positives and the negatives of all sides of the issues that were brought up on the last slide. Because every one of those things has its good things about it and its bad things about it. And you can use them intertwiningly and alternately, and some days this way, some days that way, some units this way, some units that way, just to have a variety of methods inside your own classroom, which will be good for your own mind because we need variety, and it's good for your students to learn how to learn in different settings and different situations. Active learning or seated instruction. What I mean by active learning is like being up out of your seats, sometimes going outside, unique settings to teach a lesson. And that often generates interest, gives kids experiences to help them understand. You can apply what you're teaching. It teaches fair play in children. It teaches manners in children, and distracted focus. Because if you got a lot going on and you have to finish this one thing, you got to learn how to focus and amid distractions. Seated instruction is the inside the classroom, in your seat, at a desk, teacher in the front. Seated instruction gives a structured explanation for whatever it is you're teaching, which oftentimes can be more clear. It teaches quiet focus, how to be still, and allows for questioning how and why among your classroom that's in a much quieter, more focused setting. I think seated instruction has kind of gotten a bad rap recently, simply because there are some teachers that do overuse it. And the older a student gets, the more seated instruction they're going to have. It's not glamorous, but it can be very effective when it's used in the proper way. Both active and seated instruction have skills that we all need. Have you ever had to sit still on an airplane or in a waiting room or take a certification test and had to sit still and be quiet and focused for a prolonged period of time? I have a lot. Also, have you ever been in a chaotic or a loud environment and still had to focus and work with other people? Yep. And both active and seated learning teach those exact skills. Free exploration or skill-based direct instruction. By free exploration, I mean being allowed to explore topics of a student's choice as deep and as long as they want to go. Free exploration does increase interest and allows for students to take deep dives into content and topics that sometimes you don't get to do as a classroom teacher. Then there's also skill-based direct instruction. Skill-based direct instruction is where you're in a classroom learning, either active or seated, but it builds skills that are broadly necessary for living that may not be real interesting or glamorous, and a kid might not want to explore it, but you're going to need it. Both of these, skills-based and free exploration, have their benefits. Free exploration, a kid can learn whatever it is that they are most interested in, and they are going to have a high amount of engagement in what it is that they're studying. And you can also help them and guide them in that study and show them how to use tools for research and how to use the tools of whatever it is that they're exploring. And that's great. But sometimes the skills that we need for our daily life are not really interesting or fun to explore, but are still really necessary. So, for instance, how to manage money isn't always interesting to a lot of people. Even when I was teaching how to build wealth, kids were like, meh. Some kids were not interested in it at all. But understanding how to manage your money is an important thing in today's world because debt can get crazy. And if they don't know anything about it because they never explored it, then you're leaving them without skills that are necessary for actual daily life. Group setting or individual setting. So a group setting is where kids are sitting at a table working together. It teaches social skills and cooperation within a group. And you have the individual setting where a student is sitting at a desk by themselves. And that builds independence and teaches students how to work through problems using only their own knowledge. Again, both situations have their benefits and their drawbacks to students. Group settings, some kids don't get along very well with other kids. Some kids end up doing all the work for the whole group and the other kids don't do any work. The benefits of group settings is the social aspect and the learning how to work as a team. Just because a kid doesn't like to work in a group doesn't mean he shouldn't learn how to work in a group. And then you have the individual setting where some kids are so reliant on their friends that they have struggles with working independently and actually doing things all by themselves. And that's how people must be tested, is on their own. So kids have to learn how to function in both settings. Alternative seating or traditional seating. This one's fairly new recently and within the past 10 years that alternative seating has become popular. Alternative seating is beanbag chairs or standing desks or couches or areas on the floor for students to sit. And alternative seating does help students work at their optimum by allowing them to satisfy their physical and sensory needs while learning. So that can actually satisfy their physical needs enough so that their mind can think. Then you have your traditional seating, which is your desks in a classroom, either in rows and columns or bunched together in a table. And traditional seating teaches students how to work at their optimum within certain limitations. Because as you know, in life, you can't always have things the way you want it. Sometimes you have to compromise and work in a certain situation. Teaching concepts or memorizing algorithms and facts. Teaching conceptually generates a framework for a student to anchor their understanding to. Memorizing facts, ratios, etc. makes for ease of computation and therefore deeper application is much easier. Conceptual learning teaches the understanding of how and why the concept is used and where the methods and the algorithms come from, how they were developed. And memorizing facts makes learning more complex things easier because the simple things you have as fingertip facts. It's not glamorous to memorize facts, but it's crucial if you want a student to learn deeper. AI or human? Now, AI is just recently around and I never used it in my teaching. However, I was consulting with a teacher and she showed me how she used ChatGPT to generate a worksheet for her kids to practice the skill they were working on. I didn't know it could do that. I didn't even have any concept of what it could do or what it couldn't do. But that would be something, had I known, I would have used a lot to generate alternative worksheets for kids to work on. So like, oh, we just did fractions. They're not quite getting it. I need to do another worksheet. Hey, ChatGPT, give me a math worksheet with like denominators, blah, 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 and it will generate it, which was amazing. AI is basically artificial intelligence. You can use it in a classroom and it can generate practice problems, like I said. It can also generate lesson plans and other things quickly. Human written practice problems are ones that you can create for the specific needs of your students. That's one thing that AI cannot do. It cannot tailor things to the specific needs of your students because every student is different, and only you as the teacher know your students well enough to know what they need and what they don't. So you might have a kid over here that gets the worksheet done in 5 minutes and they're all correct. And you might have some other kid over here who's stuck on problem number 3 and can't get past it in the same classroom. So you can use the AI to generate another page for this kid to do for some sort of an incentive while you have time to go over and work with the kid who's getting stuck. And both are a great way to handle the extremes. You don't want to have teaching that is entirely AI, and you don't want to have human people doing things. You don't want to have people doing things and spending time on things that AI can do just as well instantly. So it can actually save you a lot of time. It's both and. Thanks for watching the Safety in Numbers podcast, and I will see you in the next video.